everyone a reminder, coming up January 10th, we have Word War 1. That's going to be at ACX1 Studio in Atlantic City. Tickets still available at wordwardebate.com. However, don't fret if you can't get out there and you're busy. It will be streamed everywhere that Word War has a social media account. So you'll be able to find the stream live on X, Word War Debate on YouTube, Word War Debate on Rumble. And good news for this first event, that's right, the entire event will be free. Tune in January 10th. It's going to be starting around 2 p.m. We got 3 excellent debates coming up, so all major platforms. We got this piece of shit calling in. Look at this guy. Andrew, PPF, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good. How are you, Rob?
Oh, yelling at people. How's the day going?
It's going. I got up at the crack of noon.
Living
but anyway,
life, baby. Yep.
That's right. Well, I went live last night covering the Maduro thing in the wee hours of the morning. So what's your take? People are telling me I got to call in because you got an oppositional take, which immediately means that you're fired and I hate you.
I know. Great. Finally, now I can talk shit. I'm about to fucking the Crucible jacket I have. I'm about to take just pictures of me in that jacket with no, my take is
what did Chatter said wood. I said wood. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
My take is that two things. One, I'm against interventionism because I think that the United States has proven themselves to be incompetent and not benevolent in these interventions in my entire adult life. That would be Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and the list goes on. And I think that it'll be the same boondoggle here. But secondly, if we are going to accept, and I'm willing to hear this, like, fuck it, man, we're the United States. We want your oil, we'll take your fucking oil. I'm willing to accept that. If it's going to be, we got the might, that's what makes right. The problem I have with that is, why is it only with foreign policy? There's so much that Trump could be doing with that might back home. For example, if part of this is about stopping China, and because of their influence in places like Venezuela and fentanyl, why is Trump doing this and throwing the balls out on the table saying, look who I am? And then out the other side of his mouth going, well, we have to accept 500,000 Chinese students because otherwise the very universities that we should be defunding would be harmed. That's the problem I have, the lack of consistent message and the focus on foreign policy over domestic issues, which I think doesn't signal America first.
Yeah, are you familiar with the history of Venezuela at all?
Yeah, Chavez, nationalizing the oil regimes, taking away oil access from U.S. companies that rightfully owned it, the communism.
Well, they had a major issue, which was an economic issue that Chavez brought in. So most economies have some sort of diversification, right? Something. They have some kind of diversification going on. Chavez actually purposely eliminated diversification of economy via policy in Venezuela. But he did it on purpose. Nobody had ever seen anything like it because, it's a crazy policy, right? But that's what he did. And it was the main reason the economy there completely tanked out. And what's been happening, and this is true, that this has been happening for about 20 years, is the black market became emergent in Venezuela. So it's such a huge black market. That's where everybody goes and they turn their money in for US dollars. They actually go to the black market to do that because the communists there can't set the exchange rate correctly. Mm-hmm. So they always set it too high. The black market gives you a better deal in the exchange rate for their own currency, which is hilarious. But anyway, one of the main exports that they do have from black market exports is cooks and chefs and everything else that do make drugs. That is in fact true. It is in fact true. And this particular raid that happened, my understanding is that they only use the military as a shield to get law enforcement in to execute an arrest warrant. There doesn't seem like there's any kind of widespread nothing going on there right now.
Well, okay, in general, I do think that this is primarily a law enforcement action. That I'll agree with. But I mean, it's not as if they just there was bombs dropped and there were obviously people, I think we'll find out. I mean, this could be wrong, but I think it's safe to say that there were probably people that were killed. It doesn't look like on the U.S. side, which is great, but I take the point. Fine. This was a sort of law enforcement
So far the casualty reported is a possibility, a potential that a 24-year-old girl was killed, but that's not confirmed. Looks like it looked like it may be completely bloodless. That's
incredible if true. But
it looks like it might be completely bloodless. they had action. The reason they moved on it is because they had actionable intel that he was being moved into a steel compound. So as they were moving him into this steel compound, that's when they went in and got him. You know what I mean?
Well, and then not only that, I could you go further than that. I also heard that like Maduro foolishly put like half the military on leave for the holidays. It's like maybe not the best move when you see the posturing. And I'll say this, and I have said this: if it is as it seems, you cannot criticize the way that the mission was carried out. The problem I still have is with the mission itself. I do not like this interventionism, even if it's from countries like this that clearly have screwed over the United States in a litany of ways. In fact, I would say that the United Kingdom has screwed over the United States in more ways and has more negative influence right now, and a litany of other countries, Mexico, Colombia, etc.
Yeah, but we can't just black bag a European leader and all those rights. You actually can do that in a South American nation. You actually can just black bag a leader, and suddenly things in that country drastically change.
That's true. Obviously, there has to be a practical sense to this. You have to be pragmatic. Like the United States can't go to war with everyone or just, take Keir Starmer. I get it, but it's not just that simple either. Yes, we black bag, but you hear Trump today. Well, this means that the United States is going to take over Venezuela in the short term until there's a transition. Now, this is similar language that we heard with Afghanistan. We were celebrating the victory in Afghanistan within a few years, and yet we were there 20 years. And what this leads to is, at the very minimum, like if we're really concerned, this isn't about drugs. It's more about the oil and stuff, which I think you would agree. But even to the extent that drugs are a good side effect that we're going to be limiting them, how can we justify the domestic issues we're seeing?
Well, it's actually limiting the mass migration, I think. So 1/3 of Venezuela has left that nation since the years of Chavez. Like a full 1/3, and it was increasing drastically because they can't feed themselves. Well, where the fuck were they going, Rob?
Who gives a fuck? I don't care.
They were going. Well, they're going here. They were going
not
here.
Not now. Trump secured the border. They ain't coming in now. Fuck them.
Yeah, right. So, but I mean, if you want to limit future domestic immigration, you don't want an outpouring. Same thing happened in Guatemala. Guatemala poured out over 1/3 of its nation into the United States. 1/3 of them into the U.S.
All of this is true, but my solution to this isn't then we owe it in this country to go and fix other countries' problems. Because the truth is, and you know this, it doesn't matter how good or stable those countries are. If a Democratic administration gets back in power, the floodgates open again. And we're going to see the exact same millions, even if they're not from the exact same countries. But you'll still see people in Venezuela be like, shit, Joe Biden 2.0? Hell yeah, I'll flood in. So the focus should be back home. And instead, the past 5 months of the Trump administration have clearly been the foreign policy presidency. Meanwhile, do you have any doubt?
if you can cleanly do this, just like he cleanly went in and out of Iran, that was clean. If he can cleanly black bag this guy and Venezuela has a stable market economy again because they have somebody in there who's worth a shit, that is a huge W.
But if it's that,
you agree with that, right?
Yes. But why didn't Trump come out today and say it's all good? We're leaving. Instead, he said, "No, we have to maintain."
But what is he leaving? He's leaving, a couple thousand troops in a very small naval detachment. Like this is not a war brigade that's there. It's a very, very small detachment.
But I mean, the same thing could be said of Syria. We only had a couple thousand people there, and look at the boondoggle that's led to. So
yeah, but geopolitics in the Middle East are way different.
Well, yes.
in the Middle East, we got to deal with the fact that these are unrealistic, unreasonable Muslim cousin fuckers, and that brings a whole new dimension into it, the religion aspect. These people in Venezuela are Catholics, and they're not unreasonable. They're not like they're not people who can't be reasoned with. They're not people who are so dogmatic that that you can't do changes like this. And they get embraced quickly. And in South America, we do actually have a history of regime change where it actually works out in our favor pretty well. Middle East, not so much.
Africa, not so much either, right? Libya, we
Yep,
can see
yep.
that. But
But
okay,
Africa's Muslim.
well,
Africa's
that's
Muslim. That's why.
okay. Let's say even if it would work out, I'm tired. It is clear that the hyper focus from both of the parties in this country have been America last. And when I'm voting for someone like Donald Trump that's America first, I want him to focus on domestic issues. Right now in the news cycle, we have this story that is actually momentum to get normies to fucking hate the mass migration that we see with this Somalian daycare story. Be honest. Do you have any doubt that Republicans in this next budget are going to continue to fund refugees for billions of dollars and Trump's going to sign that bill? I could handle Trump's big balls overseas if domestically he's doing the right things, but he is not. And it is clear that although it is hypothetically true, we could do both. They won't do both. And the reason is because if you're someone like Trump that's dealing with such amount of corruption, you have to be hyper focused and be spending your energy on the most efficient ways. And he's been doing the opposite. And this is one of the biggest boondoggles that's going to take up so much of his time, change the national
Well, wait a second.
conversation.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say that you're President Rob Noer.
Okay.
Right? You have to have bipartisan support for any of the localized U.S. bills that you want to pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you do. There's no way you're going to get that for immigration status. That's just not going to happen.
Then veto
there's
everything.
There's no way you're going to get that for refugee status either, right? But you might be able to do something utilizing your presidential powers elsewhere. If that's all you can do, is that what you do?
No, because yeah, okay, yes, hypothetically, to answer your question, yes would be the answer. You obviously, if you can't change everything, you make the incremental changes that you're capable of and then live to fight another day. That's true.
Right.
My argument is, but there are incremental fights that you could be making. For example, you could say, fuck you, I'm vetoing the budget bill that gives one dime to any foreigner. That's number one. Trump won't do it. Secondly, you could say, even if I can't get bills passed, what I can do is pressure people into saying, particularly in my party, that their stance is unattainable and that we're going to make the American people, particularly Trump voters, outraged at someone like Tom Emmer, who's in charge of the Somalia caucus, or outraged at all these Republicans that are funding this shit, and we'll primary them. And Trump threatens this all the time. But he's threatening to primary people who I don't particularly have an affinity for, like Thomas Massey, but not the neocons. He's not threatening to primary the people that are pushing these bills that are billions of dollars to Somalians and all this other stuff. So I think that it seems to me that the clearest example or the clearest explanation of what's going on here is Trump actually likes some of these illegals. That's why when Trump was out there the other day saying, wow, yeah, 500,000 Chinese, that's okay. And I saw these illegals at this battery plant in North Carolina, and actually we need them. And a lot of these farms, we can't just deport these people. It is clear that the people that have his ear right now are saying, well, actually, we need migration. We need it. We need H-1Bs. We've got to be hesitant on a lot of these illegals. And this is just another example. It's just the neocon agenda. This is Lindsey Graham's foreign policy and domestic policy.
I'm not going to give you a huge fight there because it's true, right? You are correct that, and a lot of that, as you know, has to do with farm subsidies. Right. It literally has to do with, there's a huge kind of political arm when it comes to lobbying from farmers. People don't really realize how big of a lobbying arm that really is. It's such a large lobbying arm that they can demand endless subsidies and actually get them. And so, there's always going to be bipartisan support for visas for people to work cheap labor on farmland. Like there's nothing we're ever going to be able to do about that. You could maybe, institute something like Bush tried to do where they come in and they go home. It's just that they never go home, right? That's what happens. They just don't fucking go back home. So that's true. I agree with that. On the domestic side of things, I'm not sure what Trump can do, though. His hands seem totally tied when it comes to immigration. You say he can veto the bill. Well, Congress can override the veto, and they will. And then he gets egg on his face.
But if that's...
you got to be careful here.
But imagine the uproar, though. Imagine, like, the MAGA base. And, like, if that would be the best thing that could happen, to be honest. Right? If so many... This was one of my arguments against ending the filibuster. The truth is the rhino Trump-hating Republicans in Senate, right, they don't want to end the filibuster because they use the fact that they need 60 votes to justify the fact they do nothing. The truth is they don't want Trump's agenda. So if the filibuster ended, all of a sudden they could no longer hide behind that. It would be like, okay, you have the votes. Now do it. And then what you would find is actually you don't have the votes because enough Republicans don't agree. So if, for example, Trump said,
but if your veto gets overridden, though, you look weak.
Well,
You
that's
look
true.
like you have no power. It looks like you don't have any supporters. I mean, from an optic standpoint, that's real bad. You don't generally want to have a veto overridden.
I agree with you, but disagree at the same time. Everything you say here is absolutely correct. However, Trump is unique, and what that would show is even his own party does not believe in the agenda. Particularly if he said, my veto's for one reason, not one more dime to these illegal foreigners. Not one more. Not one more for refugees. And so take that portion out of the bill. And if Republicans said, nah, dog, we can't do that, we'll override the veto, then the primaries would be insane. Trump could say, fair enough, this party no longer supports me, and so I'm going to use my bully pulpit to radically change the party by promoting primary challenges to each and every person that voted to override the veto. And
yeah, sure, but moving into the midterms, people have a very short attention span, and moving into midterm elections, if Trump has a veto, he puts a veto in, it gets overridden. Even the people who then said, no, I was voting with Trump, right? People will give their angst to them too and still vote for the Democrat. Fuck this party, in other words. Fuck this party. They won't do anything that we want anyway. Fuck these guys. You know what I mean? They're not paying attention. Most people don't pay attention to the micro. They're not going to actually research each individual politician, what they voted for. People just don't operate that way. They operate off of a party political lens. That's the dialectic. And so I think if Trump started an internal conflict with the Republican Party coming into the midterms, especially over veto powers when it comes to him vetoing bills and it gets overridden, I think a lot of his actual core supporters who he can rely on, that would actually hurt them in the midterms when people became frustrated with the Republican Party.
Even if that was hypothetically true, I don't think that what would happen would be that it would even be necessary to get to the veto stage. I think the truth is it's not just a matter of Trump begrudgingly saying, fuck, I got to sign this bill that's $5 billion for refugee. I think Trump wants it. And I think if Trump said, look, no, don't put that in the bill. Yes, you're right that it's a game of chicken at that point, that your Tom Emmers of the world and your Lindsey Grahams of the world will say, but we want that shit. That's how we get kickbacks to ourselves. And that's how our lobbyists get cheap labor, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you're right. That's what so it become a game of chicken. But those people also realize, like, well, we would be fucked too. Right. And this will put this issue at the forefront. And the establishment doesn't want this. They don't want this fight to come head on. If the battle line's going to be drawn and it's going to be like, this is it. This is the end of it. We are literally coming out as clear as day and saying, it's a uniparty, baby. It's it. Uniparty 101. Foreigners matter most. And we're willing to die on this hill as Republicans in Congress to say, nope, fuck you, MAGA. Fuck you, Trump. Foreigners matter more. If they don't want that to be the battle line. They don't. And you're right. I think what would happen would ultimately be this would massively cost Republicans in the midterms, but even Democrats would be frightened because they know that there would then be a third party that would come about that would be like, that's it. There has been an announcement of uniparty. So there could be a party or at least momentum that comes out that says, we are the fuck the immigrants party. We're the only people that give a shit. And so I don't
know about this idea either of the emergence of a third party. I'm not sure that that's a great idea. Do you remember?
Well, it would be a revamp of the Republican Party is what it would be.
Yeah, that we would need. That's a good idea, revamp. But that's already happening, right? Influencers are actually beginning to change the ideas around the Republican platform, so that's very helpful. That's going to take a couple of years, but it is very helpful. But a third party, I think, is a bad idea. You remember back in the Clinton, it was Clinton Pro, and and the reason Clinton won was because he split the vote. Pro split the vote, right?
Hit the ears. I love Pro.
Yeah, and so it ended up. Yeah, I liked him too. Ross Perot, wasn't it? But he split the vote, and so you can end up in these crazy situations where like people get 10% of the vote and still win. It's like that could create all kinds of. That could create all kinds of problems too, like it does in the UK. So I'm not sure that that moving out of the two-party system is actually any better.
Well, I agree with you. The problem is like we are set up to the way where unless we are 70 years away from having win after win after win to have viable third parties at the national level. I totally agree with that. So when I say third party, what I mean is that you would see a revolt inside the Republican Party because they would have came out and said, we are a uniparty. At that point, I just imagine the balls it would take. Imagine the balls it would take 3/4 of like Republicans to come out and be like, well, you know what? Actually, we disagree, Trump. We really want to continue to fund Somalians. I mean, the outrage of every single one of their voters would be like, wait, what? Right now they hide like Tom Ender under the veil of, we're outraged. We're outraged by what Walls did here. Oh my goodness, this is
Yeah,
terrible.
but I just gotta, like, from the pragmatic side here, right? Coming into midterms, if you knew that if you began a primary function said the Republican Party betrayed you, you're Donald Trump, this is the things you're going to vote for, even if it's true. If you're in Trump's shoes, would you rather at least have the party be Republican that you're the head of, who gets in the midterms, or they all get fucking dunked on by Democrats and Democrats take their seats? Trump knows then he's a lame duck president. He's not going to be able to pass nothing.
Well,
and so it's like, I don't know, from a pragmatic position, if I'm Donald Trump, I'm not going to be during the midterms trying to fight too hard politically against my own party, because I know that if they don't at least retain X amount of seats, I'm not going to be able to do shit for the last few years of my presidency.
Okay, so I don't think it would play out this way, that Republicans would fight back and override a veto like that. But let's say hypothetically that would happen. Yeah, you're right. Of course I would rather have Republicans. And if I'm Trump, I'd rather have Republicans. But then the same criticism becomes this. We just had what would be the most positive news cycle for Republicans in the midterms that's completely stamped out because Trump decides to bomb Venezuela and black bag Maduro. So if it's really about, look, we need to have slow incremental victories on the inexorable march to Republicans winning, as we as influencers can change them from within, I agree that's not a bad strategy, but then why take away your best news cycles?
And wait a second, though. This will be forgotten about in a week. Is that what you mean? Like, he should have held off on getting Maduro. They should have held off on Maduro until the midterms. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, no, but you're right. Again, you are right in this, that yes, the news cycle's so fast that we'll be talking about something different in 2 weeks. True. But what this illustrates is we should have been talking about the Somalians this week and next week and the week after, just like we should have been talking about Charlie Kirk. But Trump's administration, look, Trump has no help. The Republicans in Congress suck. They deserve the majority of the blame. But you have to cast blame on Trump and his administration for this. They are incapable of taking to the illogical extent a news cycle. We should still be talking about assassination against Trump and Charlie Kirk. That should be every single day. The violence of the left. And somehow within 2 weeks, they allowed Jimmy Kimmel to be the victim of the Charlie Kirk thing. Same thing here. You're given this golden platter, this Somali story. You run with it every fucking day. And now they're out there and they're going to be talking about Maduro. And they're going to be talking about Venezuela. And they're going to be talking about Iran. And the American people don't give a shit. In fact, this is going to be unpopular. They're going to, majority of people aren't going to think this is popular. This doesn't help Republicans in the midterm. It only harms them. And so I think now you're right that the silver lining is no one's going to give a fuck. If the economy's good, Republicans will win. That's the truth. We know it, and so no one will give a shit about this story come, 2 months before the midterms. But nonetheless, they should have been hyper-focused on the domestic issues, and those would have been wins,
Well, I think on the Somali thing, you have a good point there. But I'm not sure that the news cycle is going to go away from that because alternative media got involved. So the mainstream media came in and said, no, we looked into all these claims. And you know what? After looking into these claims, we found out that they're false. And then you see what they did to look into the claims. And all they did was pull up some public records. That was it. Right? They didn't really look into them at all, especially not CBS. So it was.
Brian Shapiro disagrees with you. He called in last night to let me know.
It was a total joke. Yeah, I know. He was trying to stalk me on my channel too.
I heard. I didn't know you were.
And after me. Why is he still going to your channel? I thought he had big things to do. He had to go do Chris Cuomo thing. He was arguing with me in DMs. He said, "Hey man, the most offensive thing to me is when you said that guy Rob Noer's as big as I am." And I was like, "I'm sorry, bro. He's got a much bigger live stream than you." He's like, "I do 1,000 live viewers on YouTube." I said, "No, you fucking don't. Shut up, Brian." He got so mad, dude.
Dude, I would leave Brian calling every day because it's gold for my channel. And I treat him in a way that he would never reciprocate. I go on his show, he's muting me. I leave him go on his 4-minute soliloquies that's just moving the goalpost over and over. But one of the things I think's funny is he constantly wants to make things personal with me. He comes in saying, your audience is stupid, you're stupid, blah, 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 blah. Now, by the end of this conversation we're having last night, he starts, he brings up you again, and he does this whole I'm not like you and Andrew. I don't need my audience to say that I won debates, blah, blah, blah. It's sort of implying like a vanity or like sort of low self-esteem or something that we need to build
Well,
ourselves
he
up?
doesn't need to. He doesn't need to worry about it. His audience would never do that.
That's what I said. I was like, well, two things to say about this. One, no one's going to say that because you lost, so they're not going to say you won. And secondly, I was like, the implication here seems to be that you're saying we're low self-esteem. And I was like, Brian, I sometimes we're hyperbolic, like when you're debating someone, you say, you're the most partisan person I've ever seen, blah, 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 blah. But I was like, I say this with no hyperbole. I truly mean this. I have never interacted with someone on these online spaces that has less self-esteem than you. Like your constant need for validation. I'm like, Brian, you were texting me over the holidays to say, I'm in America. My phone number, not a public message, my personal cell phone. You texted me to say, I'm in America Fest and I'm a big deal and I'm debating Jack Posobiec and you're fucking nothing. You're a worthless. I'm like, you literally, me and Andrew are in your head so bad. You keep saying, I'm bigger than you. And yet you're watching every day. And yet you're calling in every day. And he's like, how dare you? How dare you make it personal? That's all you do, Brian. Like, and I don't mind it. I'm not whining. You want to call me fat? You want to say that I low self-esteem, that I'm stupid, that I need to brag and say I won debates? I don't give a fuck. I'll keep talking to you. But he gets incredulous. How dare you imply that I have low self? It's truly one of the most astonishing things I've ever seen. A person who knows so bad that they got blown the fuck out, that they're desperately seeking for a win of some sort. And so while they'll simultaneously tell you, you're a nobody, no one gives a fuck about you, but I'm tuning in every day and calling in every day. It's like, methinks that your actions belie your words in that case. So,
Yeah, I think I think with Shapiro, like, just give him time. I think over a couple of months, he'll I don't know, he'll finally he'll start to get it, stop spurting out so bad. I don't know for sure, you know what I mean? Because he's a very, I tell him this all, you're a very excitable fellow,
yes.
a very excitable fellow. So the thing is like, I don't care though, you know, let Spurgio do what he does. But that aside, I'm going to let you go because I know you were getting the hell out of here.
Yes.
So I appreciated the conversation. Obviously, I won this debate,
Yeah.
and that's because I need my self-esteem boost. You know. Anyway, thanks, Rob. I'll see you, bro.
Yep. I'll be raiding over to your stream to tell you what a piece of shit you are next time stream for saying you won.
Totally fair. Totally fair.
All right. Take it easy, Andrew. We'll see you.
You too.
Well, I'm fired, I guess. Oh, shit.